Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Index podcast, where the three of us come together every couple of weeks to discuss the latest in crypto data, chart crimes, and happenings in the crypto industry. The three of us being Denning, on-chain corgi at Flashbots,
Hello.
Hildobby, resident data householder at Dragonfly,
GM, everyone.
and me, Boxer. I'm the community powerhouse at Dune. Before we get started, nothing we say here should be relied upon as financial, legal, or tax advice. We are acting on our own behalf and not on behalf of our employers in this podcast. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. This week we're gonna dive into SocialFi data, and Hildobby seems to be our resident expert for SocialFi data. Denning and me are more on the boomer side, although we've tried to educate ourselves a bit. But maybe, what do you even think is SocialFi? So maybe Dobby, if you can start and just like, what is your definition of SocialFi?
My definition is that there's not really a precise definition. It's more of a scale where you're either like fully social or either like fully financial, and everything in between kind of fits this definition. But I don't think there's much of an agreed upon like common definition. I mean, we're gonna look at like a bunch of projects, and you'll see how it kind of varies, but there's always some tie to social and some time to some financial aspect at least.
What do you think?
My cynical comments would be like, I don't know, like a fork of Twitter with some speculative curve built in for people to trade something like a cards or some.
So Arena.
I mean, Friend.tech too, kind of. I guess they don't have a feed, but yeah.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to mind for me for SocialFi is definitely Friend.tech, and then there was a few like older competitors which had kind of a similar concept, but they're so old that they don't really matter, and none of them ever really got adoption. So yeah, SocialFi seems to be a very like new and undefined category where it's like, yeah, what even like social finance? Like that's a weird term. And I think like there was some concepts in Web 2, like fintech, where like there's like copy trading and like trading competitions and stuff like that, where like more of the like GameStop, like GameStonk, like crew, those kinds of people would like kind of fit into that narrative. But it's also like very, yeah, so like in the end, like I also don't have a box to put this in, and I'm excited to learn in this episode actually what you can kind of report from the front lines and the trenches of SocialFi, and maybe also like how SocialFi portfolio is doing.
Well, actually, before then, I want to show an overview of the sector. There's this tweet that kind of tries to put SocialFi on like a chart and try to place different apps. You can see how there's not just like crypto stuff. There's also Web2 stuff that you know very well. So Twitter's in the middle, Instagram, Spotify, and stuff. I don't know if those are they're not necessarily like SocialFi, but social definitely. And a bunch of them are going to lean more towards SocialFi, but that's especially the new ones. And you can see Friend.tech in there, which is more explicit capital and financial, but there's some with more implicit financial aspects that aren't necessarily at the forefront of the app, but you can make revenue off of if that's what you wish, and stuff like this. So I think it's just a very, very wide net to call something a SocialFi app, or even a social app is even broader. But yeah, so I thought that was a good start to like contextualize how it is relative to Web 2, and also seeing how new apps fit onto there. And I think the recent wave is going to fit in that bottom right corner mostly, which is more like financial and explicit about it being financial. And that's where you're going to find like Friend.tech, Polymarket, Pump.fun, Fantasy, and a bunch of others. And that's probably going to be where we focus most of this episode, because if you look, that's where most of crypto is. You can also categorize, of course, like Zora as a SocialFi app, because it is somewhat like signaling that you have I don't know, you've minted an edition. So depending on what it is, it represents something that you want to be part of, I guess. And there's social aspect, and one of the goals is for it to be displayed on your profile within crypto apps and stuff, and seeing, okay, who of the community is holding this NFT I released and stuff like this.
It's kind of interesting that like all the apps listed here, you can categorize them into different revenue model. Like Discord, Spotify, they're more like subscription based, and then like for TikTok or like Instagram and X, it's more like an ads model where you basically monetize the social capital by the attention, and like the crypto one seems to be a lot more like brutal. Basically, just hey, here's the money, like trade it and like get a fee.
I think this categorization is very weird. Where like Instagram sits in like explicit capital, and I think like I don't think it's that
Agreed.
explicit on Instagram that like I don't know that like you're there to make money. It's more like influencers are always like kind of like they're sprinkling in advertisements everywhere, but it's not that explicit. And the same with TikTok, where it's like mostly about the creativity and stuff.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. Like that's how we like the whole definition is a bit of fuzzy. So anyone can rework this chart, and we probably all have very different ones because it's all based also on how you use. Because Instagram is definitely not explicit capital for me and you guys, but for some it is. It's like their core thing is being an influencer, and whilst like it's not when you put the apps like not at the forefront, but one of the big reasons they're there is they can actually make money off of what they're doing here. And so it's also depends what type of user you are. And so Friend.tech, which if you've been in crypto, you most likely have heard of in the past year. It is a how would you describe it? Friend.tech is, I would describe as a Telegram app, except to join a chat, you actually need to buy a share into kind of like a stock into that group chat, and you can buy as many as you want. And there's a price curve that the more share are issued, the more they are costly, and therefore there is some financial aspect because it's also a whole trading aspect. I think it kind of is almost close, like very close to like Memecoin trading. Like Friend.tech, the whole reason and the whole crowd it captured seemed to have been a lot of like Memecoin traders, and those were previously NFT traders. And it is a lot about like speculating on the like the value of those rooms, or the keys. I think they're called keys, and the hopefully making a profit on your sales. My biggest problem with Friend.tech is that I wish it focused on the actual content and the group chats having like some reason to stick around other than the financial one. But I've kind of find it lacking in terms of like both as a viewer, but also if you're the one in charge of the room, you don't have much of an incentive necessarily to do much. Either you go like super hard, but I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about this. When you guys tried Friend.tech last summer, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think quickly rolling back a step, the V1 version of Friend.tech was a one-to-end chat. So like I, as the creator of the room, could chat with the people in the room, and they could send me individual messages, but I can't see the messages of other people. And now in V2, they also have introduced this concept of clubs, where in those clubs you can actually kind of send messages end to end. So like everyone in the chat can see the messages of everyone else. So like the V1 version of Friend.tech was like very strange experience where like you'd see like somebody chatting with somebody else, obviously, but like the other person was a ghost to you. So like it like from the start, like this was such a weird concept, and it felt like they just like went like fuck it, ship it. And it's like it actually took off because like this was a novel concept, and like this was very exciting. Which you can also like see reflected in the graph there, which is like, oh, everyone was like super excited, but then it's like the retention of the app was actually terrible. But yeah, I tried it out. I was never in any channel that was like reasonable, and I never like my own channel always just felt like weird. So like I never really saw the appeal.
There was not much of a I didn't get much out of it as a room owner, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like I think the V1 experience was weird, but like I can see that they try to create some, how to say, influencer centric kind of economy. Like basically, everyone's a star. If you buy my key, you come into my room. I'm doing like an AMA or like Q&A kind of style, right? And the weird part is that you see them answering some question that you didn't ask, and like you don't know the context what people were asking, and so like I think that can be improved totally. Like you can maybe like paste the question people asked anonymously as a context and stuff. But yeah, I did see people like, for example, Bert from our team, he was like answering a lot of questions seriously about MEV in his room, like just nerding hard. I don't know. But like same thing as the V1, V2 feature, the clubs thing came out. I joined a few groups just to check it out. I joined one that's like a coffee chat, and so people were actually like sincerely praising coffee every day and in that group chats, but like showing pictures of different type of coffees, and I thought it was nice, but it just popular for like a week and died down. Like nobody else posted again. So yeah, and I mean also the UX is still, I think it's kind of trash. It's like you want to sell a share or like whatever a key or something, you can't find the sale button. It's actually hidden in the buy button. So there's only one big buy button, and then you click it and it says sell or buy. A lot of things I see, it doesn't load in my app, and just like a question mark of a lot of the image and stuff. I was like, how can you launch an app like that? And yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The UX is a bit confusing sometimes. I think there's a lot of things that they did right as well. Like the whole integration with Twitter and how they were kind of the first to really showcase this tie-in, and how well Privy is of course responsible for a lot of this as well. I think Privy is going to be quite prominent in this episode in terms of most of these apps use Privy in some way to tie into the social aspect.
I actually met somebody from Privy at East Berlin last week, so I kind of have good context. And basically, Privy is like a very easy way for an app developer, to spin up a wallet on behalf of your user, and then just using already existing logins from your Google account or from your Apple account, or most prominently, I think, from your Twitter account, where in Friend.tech, you could basically just sign up with Twitter. It would create a wallet for you. Like you didn't need to export like any private keys, like nothing that would like scare any normie. And then you just have this wallet, and you could deposit money on Base, which was actually kind of part of the magic of Friend.tech. And I think what everyone in the industry said at the time is like the onboarding experience of Friend.tech was amazing. Like you literally went to their website, or like you downloaded this like PWA app, which is also like kind of a workaround around being listed on the App Store and everything. So progressive web app, I think, is like the proper term for this, where like you go into Safari, and it only works with Safari because that's like a Safari extension. I don't know how it works for Android phones, but whatever. But you add it to your home screen, then basically works like a native app on your phone, even though it just runs on Safari in the background. And then there was like this wallet embedded in there, which was using Privy. So Privy is basically just an SDK for developers, which allows you to very easily kind of like do the like Web3 authentication and like spin up wallets. And yeah, that was like, I think that like at least 50% of the success of Friend.tech is like to be attributed to literally anyone could try it out in like 2 minutes. And like once you've sent money somewhere, like that money is kind of sticky. Like there's still like the TVL of like Friend.tech took a really long time to actually bleed out. So like they collected just like a huge amount of money, and then people were like, yeah, like we'll just see what happens, and like kind of lazy to like export the money again. It's like, this is like friction or whatever.
But I have nitpickings there maybe. Like first of all, also like when you say Privy is creating a wallet for the user, I forgot how the process looked like. It's not like custody wallet, right? It's still user remember their private key and take it somewhere, and or do they just basically create a wallet and keep your private key?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you can export it, but basically like they create it on your behalf. I don't know if they like store them on a centralized server somewhere, I would hope in encrypted format, and I don't know what kind of trust assumptions they're actually making with Privy, but I would assume that they can like probably do some like hash function whatever thing to like not have the actual keys themselves, but rather just like
I
if
think
you have the Twitter account and then they create it in background. We have to look into that. But like from like the widespread use of Privy amongst like a lot of SocialFi apps, I would think that the trust assumptions don't seem to be like too severe.
Okay.
I believe
Neither.
they spread the key around, like they cut it in several bits and spread it in different places for security purposes. I think that's how it worked, and I think also, for example, Friend.tech holds a part of it, and Privy some other parts, so that no centralized entity can themselves access everything without the other's permission. Um, yeah.
I'm reading upon their docs page, and it says like either Privy or apps have access for the private key. And yeah, there's like a whole lot more security stuff that they set up to read about. So yeah, yeah. But back to what I wanted to say is that I thought the experience of like they creating a new wallets for you was not optimal. As in, like one is like I find it hard to even find my wallet address, and then like it kind of doesn't let me accumulate all my interaction on my ENS wallet, and which potentially can get me more points or airdrops and stuff, right? And like it kind of, I mean, not for airdrop purpose, but I have all my like identity built on this wallet, and now you're just creating a random wallet for me on this app and another one on another app, and also you need to bridge new assets to that wallet, and you either need to find a bridge towards that chain, or you either like ask your friends like fund your wallets and like kind of OTC it. There is some friction, I think, but
Yeah, it's also
Yeah,
great for your
yeah.
tax advisor. He's really excited about you spinning up like a new wallet for every for every goddamn app you use. But I think I think we're looking at this from a perspective of like Web3 native folks, where it's like you are like, oh, like I want everything on my ENS, and like I have like my zero and set up with like my 10 wallets or whatever, and it's like I don't want to break the UX of that. But like I think what Friend.tech actually did, like there was even some like web 2 like streamers and like e-girls and stuff like that who joined those who joined Friend.tech just because it was like such a frenzy at the time. And for them it's like I think we gotta like step away or like step back and be like, okay, the actual UX of this, like aside like using the app is like fine, and then like you doing your like personal finance management is like that's something that most people who use this app never really like think about, or like where it would be a problem. So I think that's just like us looking at this through our like very crypto native, and like we're using like tens of different apps. This is actually like a step forward where it's like the wallet UX is actually kind of abstracted away.
Yeah, yeah. I think the conclusion though is that through V1 and through V2, every time, for like so far, it hasn't stuck around in terms of daily active users, and yeah, it just traction hasn't stuck. Like it just hasn't. It had initial traction, but not that lasted so far. It was also interesting, actually. I don't know if you looked into this, Danning, but last summer there was such high activity that with the aggressive price curve, you had it was basically ripe for MEV, and so you had a lot of bots
yeah.
that weren't even they didn't even create any accounts. It's just like addresses that were spamming the contract, like with transactions. Whenever someone like created an account, it was spamming it like crazy, and it was interesting. I think it's a bit of a rabbit hole, so maybe not touch on MEV, but I guess MEV is a good proxy for like, is this being used right now? Because if there's MEV, that usually means there's organic activity in some way behind it that allows for that MEV to take place. But yeah, of course, MEV hasn't, as far as I know, stuck around as much. But in terms of data, I think so. Early on, there was kind of several waves. It launched at first. In it reached like 112,000 DAUs, which is pretty impressive. Then it fell back down for a while to like 18,000. And then I believe, I don't know if it's the second wave or the third wave, but one of them was that Paradigm was announced as the lead in Friend.tech's raise. And that kind of like boosted the activity back, and that gave confidence into them iterating on the product. And, it like kind of vets the product to have, I guess, a prominent VC name on the project. But yeah, unfortunately, it hasn't really stuck around. They tried to reboot into V2, like you mentioned, but even then, I think just V2 was, well. I mean, this is stacked all transactions. So in total, here we have 300,000, but that includes a lot of things. The key prices for just normal rooms, like before, where only the owner can chat and the others can respond, but not everyone can see it. There's 80,000, but that also like basically dwindled very quickly. And then the new product, which is the club keys. So same as before, except anyone can participate. And here, this reached like 160,000 in the first days, and then really, really quickly dwindled, and now we're at 5,000. There's a token terminal dashboard about this, and there was like 170 users a few days ago on Friend.tech. So that's like a really small number. So yeah, unfortunately, hasn't stuck around as much. But the initial wave, though, is interesting because it's not only Friend.tech that arose from it, but given its initial traction, a lot of other projects tried to say, hey, like, let's actually do the exact same thing and just copy the contracts, not even rename them. There was quite a few that was interesting, that like even the name of every single part of the contract was just straight up copy and without much of a change. And yeah, so these include Cypher, Hub3, Friend3, Frenzy, Post.tech. All these are different clones of Friend.tech in some way. They are, I think, there's one or two of them that is built on Solana. They're spread out across EVMs as well. But the concept is usually pretty much the same. The most prominent one of those, other than Friend.tech, has been Stars Arena. I think Avalanche was pushing it quite a bit because it was on Avalanche. I mean, it still is on Avalanche. And there was also a large hack that kind of, brought it back again to the spotlight. And it's kind of somewhat died since until recently, where they rebooted into their V2, but I don't have much numbers on how they're doing. I don't think they're close to where they were before. But yeah, it like Stars Arena kind of pivoted more into a Twitter clone with some financial aspect, and I think it's actually a good UX. It looks very similar to Twitter, except you have the normal feed anyone can post. You can see everyone's posts, but also a private feed where if you hold my key, you can see those tweets. Else you can't. So it's much more simple concept, and actually more social first. You don't actually need to put in capital here. You can just spin up a wallet and not do any financial thing, but just tweet and whatever. So it's like a slightly different angle, but more or less the same as well, I guess.
They had a hack, right?
Yeah, but so I can't remember the extent of the hack. Do you guys have numbers?
2 hacks.
Yeah.
I think
hacks.
it's like in the first one, in the first one they lost 2.9 million AVAX or something. Or like, don't nail down on the numbers, but basically the Avalanche Foundation said we're gonna cover this. 5 days later, literally, they got hacked again. But yeah, kind of unfortunate, and like it was kind of a bad look for the Avalanche ecosystem, where like they put all of their like social capital behind this like team, and then they got not only hacked once but twice in the span of like 10 days.
I like how they at least iterated on the concept. If you look at all the other clones, from what I know, it's basically a one-on-one copy of Friend.tech, just trying to capture some fees.
What about the front end? Is the experience at least better than the Friend.tech one? I mean, they can't fork the front end, right? It's not open source, probably.
Most of them I haven't tried because from what I heard,
Okay.
it wasn't even worth it. Stars Arena has actually a really good UX where it looks very similar to Twitter. There's like two added tabs where you can trade tickets or something. One thing that the reason I'm excited actually for this whole like sector is on the data front more than anything. I think tying like having access on chain to some ties into social data is like a really good unlock and something that has been at the core of crypto but hasn't really been accessible in the like Twitter is like where a lot of things in crypto happen, but we don't really have a way to aggregate that information, especially on Twitter because it's like so aggressively annoying with their API. So it's like one of the core reasons I'm excited as a data scientist is the data side. And I think there's things that will be iterated upon, and at some point we'll have like huge data sets that where we can actually look into those more deeply and classify users. And I think that's the most exciting thing for me as a data guy.
Yeah, maybe a quick plug since relevant here. I agree. Like now that SocialFi, so many things are happening on chain. Things are able to be analyzed just without the how to say gated API like X and others. I saw exact pitch from the recent news of the fundraise of Neynar, which basically so far they are mostly known as being the data service or client that's running the Farcaster hubs. And like for SocialFi or these kind of like Web3 social app, you can't like log everything on chain. Like it's gonna be costing gas, and the user are gonna sign a transaction to do anything interacting. Wouldn't make sense. The thing that's most prominent to be logged on chain is like you're selling a key or buying a key or anything, but there's so much more like interaction and social information that can be stored. For example, like Farcaster hubs, like on Dune right now, you can query from the data that Neynar export to, and then like figure out like all those like interaction with like this person liked the cast or retweeted the cast or followed this or that. I was like reading upon these slides from Andrew Holm. He had a great talk at the FarCon. There wasn't a recording for this, but like I thought it was very relevant to this topic. So basically, like he had like a breakdown analyzing like how do you understand and figure out all the Farcaster data. And so there's like layers of on-chain concept, I guess. I mean, you kind of could also argue that the hubs is also kind of like a decentralized network when you have multiple nodes are running and people are storing it. Like for example, one argument for Farcaster was that a front end is banned in US, but now there's multiple people running the clients, and now it's not easy to be censored. So like, yeah, it's kind of like a decentralized network in my opinion. Like for on-chain, it's only the registry and the key transactions, but for hubs, you have more info about like casts and each person's profile, verification, links, and reactions. And you can like basically get those data dumped from Neynar and query and like build a lot of the social context there. And there's more private info, like similar to like DM and private chat from the client nodes and stuff. You can build so much data and like profiling and context based on all these like network of data. And like you can basically analyzing user or channel and profiling them as how to say like big or well or like active not active, and based on like they're also financial profile based on the assets they hold in their addresses. So now basically I guess like you guys are familiar with the idea of Spindle as like the Web3 attribution data company, where basically so they're trying to indexing all the on-chain footprints, I guess combined with off-chain data to try to help application to target on who are your audience and like help them to build like an ads distribution model and stuff. And so like with data like this, I think it's like super powerful for those kind of use cases. And so like now you can basically figure out not only the anonymous on-chain financial history, but also their social interaction, like who they care about, like what topics they interact a lot with, and other linked addresses and accounts. And so, yeah, I think it's such a treasure of like the social data.
One cool thing is when we have as like what Spindle is trying to do and stuff, and having all those. The cool part is all this data is accessible to all, not only your data but also your competitors. and that can probably allow for much faster iteration and much faster going like competition, because you know what the other is doing, what he's targeting.
That's a very good point because I think like the Web3 ad story is all about like everyone can access this data rather than say Facebook, you're the monopoly and like you tell an app developer this is how much you need to pay for acquiring one user. How can I verify this pricing is reasonable and stuff? But now like anyone can indexing it, anyone can like providing like a ads attribution model. It's not gonna be Facebook themselves just they don't own the data anymore. So
Yeah, no, I agree. So another one that I've been looking into recently has been Fantasy.top, and the reason being is also because those are devs that were iterating on stuff that I was looking into before. They were doing like an NFT lending aggregator on mainnet. Unfortunately, like monopolies, there's like one or two protocols that take most of the thing, and it's not really worth having an aggregator on top. But it was really cool tech, and I think they, like high speed of iteration and stuff is cool to follow. So it's the kind of dev I like to track. Are you guys familiar with Sorare?
Yeah, the card
No,
trading games on like European soccer. I think that's how they got big.
yeah, yeah. So it's a company where that issues cards as NFTs for football players, as in soccer players. Sorry, they've started doing NBA, and you can essentially trade based on the performance of those players. So you can own a card, and based on his performance, you'll have various rewards or whatever for the next week, and you can trade it, and price is impacted in some way. There's also each has different rarity tiers, so you could own a specific player in this in a very common type of card, but also in a rarer thing, in a rare one that is more valuable, but also gets you more rewards. So yeah, so there's this whole economy, which is basically NFT trading on top of this, and that's what Sorare is. Fantasy.top kind of takes this a similar approach, but instead of focusing on sports, they focus on so far like Twitter crypto influencers and getting those listed within the app, and anyone can trade them, and then you have tournaments where you create a deck of 5 cards, and you say, okay, I'm betting on those 5 people to excel at Twitter in the next week or so, in terms of like performance of like social performance, so views and stuff like this.
Is it views? Is it likes? Is it like retweets? Is the algorithm open or is it like closed sourced?
It's not fully open. I don't think it's like they are using all these data. The big problem they started to face was Sybil's, because anyone can call a bot and say, hey, like bot like this tweet to hell.
Yep.
But you could also see, like, if you dig deep in the data, they were able to discern the Sybil's from the rest. I don't know to what extent like the accuracy of it is, but they're focused a lot. They're iterating on this Sybil filtering algorithm, and you even had like, since you're betting on 5 people, you don't want others to do better, right? You're betting on 5 people relative to the rest of the influencers, and since you don't want the others to do well, what people were doing was botting their followers and buying them a ton of followers, so that relative to their following, like their reach was actually going down. So there was this whole dynamic at first, but they filtered this, and now they're saying, okay, we're only taking like a stamp in time followers at like start of the competition, so it doesn't matter how your followers move and stuff like this. But yeah, it's interesting to iterate on social data.
But
I
wait,
think the
isn't
big
that
issue.
like the whole like ranking algorithm is based on Twitter data, which is like notoriously kind of sucks. Where it's like
Yes.
there's bots, there's like I mean there's so many bots and like there's so much spam and
Yeah.
like you can't really rely on the view count and like so like the whole app is built on like Twitter, which is like a really unreliable data source, and then you expect me to like put money into this and to like to like get rewarded or punished by this bogus algorithm that some like closed source company is doing like based on like closed source Twitter like counting algorithms. That sounds like a lot of like weird trust assumptions and weird things to like stack on top of each other.
I think, yeah, I mean, I agree. There's definitely trust assumptions. I think the thing is though that if you want to build a social app, like Twitter is the layer you currently want to build on top of, because that's where most of the activity is. Ideally, it would be on a on a permissionless protocol like Farcaster.
Can you walk me through like a regular like week of playing, or like is this a weekly competition? Is this a daily competition? How does that work?
It's so far there's been like three main competitions, but there's also different types of competition. There's the main one where any card is allowed, so any rarity, anyone. But then there's each card based on the past week performance. It has a star count at first, and that is basically the more stars you have, the more you've been the more you've been put forward by like on Twitter and stuff, because you've been doing better. And that also, of course, incurs differences in prices between the cards with a high amount of stars and the card with low amount of stars. And then rarity acts as a multiplier. So if you hold a common card, you have a multiplier of one, and then based on rarity, you can go up until like times 2.5, essentially multiplying the points you get from that specific influencer. And so you already know you have an indicator for what is the recent past performance of that influencer. And of course, the ones with more stars are going to be chosen more. But there's also like a whole meta of like trying to understand who those people are, because you can gain a lot of knowing if the guy's going to tweet on weekends or not, or if the guy is going to actually, go for it.
Like every couple days you select like 5 people out of your deck of like whatever 50 players, and you kind of play them, and then like some time passes, and then you like get the results from that based on like the Twitter performance of these people.
Yeah, you can see it live as well. The performance, like you can check whenever during the tournament, and you can see it run throughout. And yeah, so it is a very different type of app. But if you've traded on other stuff like Sora, I think there was also Top Shots is another similar. It was more popular in the US. So
you had like a trading card. I think it was more like purely NFTs. I don't think they had like a real like card game in there. But it's more like fantasy football and stuff, where like I think that's actually like a huge fintech category in the US, where like people kind of do the same thing with like football. But yeah, okay, very very strange. This is not something I can see myself getting into at all. Like this would bore the hell out of me. And it's also like I think one of the like things that I think is like similar about like Friend.tech and like Stars Arena and like all of these different like concepts is all that's like very circular like products from crypto Twitter for crypto Twitter. Where like I think like in some sense like in DeFi and stuff that actually makes sense, like because like the DeFi whales are really like who are deciding who like is Athena gonna be successful, or is it gonna be whatever EtherFi or stuff like that, where it's like they really need the OGs. But like for these other products, it's like, do the economics of Friend.tech really work out if it's like 1,000 people like doing that stuff? Like is that like an economically viable model? And the same probably for Fantasy.top, where like you spend like millions of development costs. You have to hire like gigabrain solidity engineers for like 500K a year, and then in the end you have like 300 users, and like should all of them like spend, I don't know, 2K a year on this one product, or like produce 2K of fees to just pay this one engineer salary? Like that, like I think like the economies of scale and like everything. I mean, like this Fantasy.top concept you could probably also apply to like, I don't know, like politics Twitter, other like Twitter sub niches out there. But like, are these people really gonna be interested in this? Like, I think this is like very much like, yeah, crypto Twitter building products that like.
So you're called a hero when you are a card, and you get a percentage of the trading. So there's a trading fee, I think 3% or something, and half goes to the protocol and half goes to heroes. So there's like several influencers that like ended up earning north of like 5 ETH in the first few weeks just on this. So there's also an incentive. There's like a like you said, that it is circular, but there is an incentive for you to play the game and actually try to be like tweeting more and whatever, because you are in the end rewarded for it. But it's definitely not for everyone. I agree. I'm just interested in all the time. I'm looking at like what novel use cases of crypto there are, and I'm always trying to see like who is pushing the frontier and trying to do novel stuff. Um, yeah, and
But
that's
is
also why
this
when
like
I'm
is this novel? Like I think this is just like a trading card game. I mean, yeah, okay, it's a trading card game based on Twitter,
well
so like
on
that's like a spin on it. But like in the end, it's like wouldn't they maybe have been more successful if they had like replicated like traditional fantasy league football game where like
that's so rare is
I don't.
basically doing that.
Yeah, that's fair, and I'm a fan of So Rare, but like this feels
Yeah,
this feels like it's a I don't know. Like I'm very bearish on these, like, or not bearish, but like I just think like the economies just don't work out for like things that crypto Twitter builds for crypto Twitter.
I think. Well, no, I think if you look at how a lot of crypto products get successful, you first cater to crypto Twitter and crypto natives, and eventually, if those catch on and actually use the product, this often spreads to other niche who want to look at crypto. I think, of course, it is built for crypto Twitter and by and for crypto Twitter. But you can essentially extend the context to anyone and to any type of niche. But you got to start somewhere. You can't, like, if you cast a huge net at first, it just dilutes everything and makes it all really unusable. So I actually think starting with a crypto twin niche, first of all, makes sense given it's a crypto product. And if you there will be like there's like a word of mouth where if those people are very happy with the product and others people are looking into crypto Twitter is one of the places you look for most in terms of news, in terms of everything that is going on in the ecosystem. So I think it makes sense to cater to that audience actually.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I don't see how this product could reach mainstream like very easily. But walk us through the numbers here. Like how is it actually looking for them? Like
So in terms of users, it's definitely more niche. It's like it reached like 15K, but it's been dwindling for so far. It's in the 4,000 as of yesterday. But in terms of volume, it's basically been like 70% of ETH volume in the first few days. Since the way it works also is because there's a high volume at first because everyone is opening cards and minting cards and everything. But once you've got your set of cards, you don't necessarily need to acquire new ones constantly, right? You can like keep playing the game with the cards you already hold. It's also hard because much like Friend.tech, all we're tracking is on-chain data. So it's hard to say, like a daily active user on a Dune or Flipside dashboard is going to be specifically the subset of users that has traded or has done some on-chain components. But you can perfectly use the app every day and only trade or do on-chain actions only on some of them. So it's just like I think that's good for context at first, but also yeah, I think volumes were impressive at first. They've got like 4,000 in ETH of treasury that they've gained simply from the game and like people minting and everything. And they've distributed like over 600 in ETH to heroes since in the past month. But yeah, the activity has definitely slowed a little. I think it's just like any product, there's a hype around launch, and then it dwindles down. But we'll see, how it goes from here. I like how they're iterating on different types of competition, and they keep on like trying new things and releasing new products.
yep, fair enough. We'll see what comes out of this. Um, the treasury is insane. Maybe this actually works.
There are dynamics that are specific to the app, and you'll see like here the users basically people aren't as motivated to trade when there's a competition going on, because you've already set your deck, and now you just got to write it out and wait. Whereas people are going to trade in between those competitions. So that's why, for example, you'll see some minters in specific days and not others, and also why you have these like ups and downs. So here, for example, I think a new type of competition was recently announced, and that's why like it picks back up, because people, okay, we want to trade our deck so that we are ready for whenever this competition starts. So it's just also like a slightly different dynamic, where it's not as continuous in terms of usage as you might have on Friend.tech, because it's very dependent on those tournaments.
Yeah, but even if you would graph this into like a 30-day moving average, or however long this is live now, or like a 14-day, like it would still like go down. Like the spikes are getting smaller, even though it is
no,
a
of course.
spiky
Oh,
distribution.
it is definitely going down. Yeah, activity is going down.
But yeah, maybe they can actually build a game that's fun to play and people would just want to play it. I mean, there's like an inherently financial aspect of this, but like I think like a big part of this will also be like just people farming like blast points, or like trying to like get fantasy points, like similar to like other farmers, where it's like, oh, I'm bridging around my money through layer 0 for like the thousandth time, and like not because I need to be on other chains, but rather just because like I'm grinding the airdrop.
In general, are like SocialFi apps. It's the core audience is like Memecoin traders, who like NFT traders, and the primary goal is very often to make money off of this, right? And so you can also trade your way into, you buy this influencer that for now is not doing super well, but you bet on him doing better, and you can sell it higher later on. So it's
like I see him going to therapy and in the gym. Like I think he's gonna turn around. I think he's gonna get funnier. You like send him some mushrooms through the mail. It's like hilarious. Yeah, I mean, could be, would be fun. I think like we can quickly talk about Telegram. Telegram has launched a blockchain in I think 2021 already, or like maybe even earlier, called Ton, or Ton Chain, and it's basically like a very quick and easy integration for developers to spin up crypto-enabled apps within the Telegram ecosystem. And it's actually done huge numbers. I think we looked at this earlier, and they have like a DEX which is doing like 50 million like nominal dollar volumes in a day, which is like nothing to laugh about. And how much of that is like bots and whatever, like we don't really know, like we can't really verify this data. But like I've increasingly been hearing more and more Telegram and the Ton chain in general is picking up steam. And we've also like as Dune, we've been getting more requests for like, hey, please integrate Ton chain, there's interesting stuff happening there. So I think that's going to be something to look out for the future, because Telegram has this massive distribution of like all the global users. It's already part of crypto. So I think like if somebody finds like the magic sauce of like actually can build like an exciting game, or like an exciting application, or something exciting towards like on this Ton chain, I think that could really be like a spark that could send like, I don't know, waves through the ecosystem or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Ton is an interesting concept, because this whole it's all about like trading handles on Telegram, and it's something that happens on basically all social platforms, whether legally or not really within the terms of service. And Telegram is the only one to do it, like have an official way to do it. But like Twitter has a huge economy behind it. It's kind of like behind the scenes. Instagram, very similar. There's like handles, like single letter handles that have sold for like 6 figures in the past, and there's even like even higher sales. It's just there's a lot of value to having like a short handle, or something that is a word that is very representative in the English language, or whatever language, because that's going to be what people search for, and then you're more likely to pop up top, I guess. So yeah, it makes sense to have this economy actually officially.
But like Ton chain is way more than just handle trading. Like you
Oh,
could
my bad.
you could go out and like be like, you as a developer can just deploy apps on Tonchain today. And like that's
Oh,
like it's a very like regional, like your geographic thing again, where like we are like not in these circles, because I think it's mostly like in this case Russian stuff. Actually, I talked to someone at East Berlin, and he was like, yeah, like the Russians are crazy about like Telegram and stuff, which makes sense. I think the founder is Russian, like he's in Dubai or whatever. But yeah, so there's certain like geographic circles or like areas where on chain is actually like a medium where people trade shitcoins and stuff like that. We are just absolutely not aware, and it's not on Dune. It's not on Flipside. It's not. Is it on Flipside? No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone has the data. So it's like we can only, there's this one site which is like tonstats.com or tonstat.com, and like that's that's it. So like it's really hard to actually gain any insights in. But I think definitely worth keeping an eye on, and I think we'll be hearing more of this, just because like it's all about distribution channels in like a lot of modern commerce, and Telegram definitely is like prime to like capitalize on these distribution channels that they already have.
yeah. It's crazy how the metrics have been. Like the past month, they've increased a ton in terms of on-chain activation. So there's like 200,000 per day now. What
Yeah,
is
I
it per
mean we
day
all
today?
know how like fragile those metrics are,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
how
No, of course. I mean
unreliable in the
relative.
end they are. But
I mean relative to historically how it's been doing. It's like there has to be something that recently, maybe there's like some major dApps relative to the chain, of course, that launched.
yeah, I think prices also really went up. I think they're like in the top 10
Oh,
maybe of like global crypto market cap, or like of all market caps. Um,
okay, because all these metrics are in tons, so it doesn't really necessarily tell
yeah,
you
their
all the
their
story.
market cap is like 70.
Okay.
So that's pretty good. And they did a very recent addition. They actually kicked Cardano out of there. So that's
Oh,
a good
okay.
thing to see.
I'm rooting for Ton
Um,
then.
yeah, we very much restricted ourselves to like different apps. But then if we think back even to just our like history of episodes, it's like Degen. It's like Degen is really SocialFi, in my mind. And like even if we think about Pump.fun, where it's like it's kind of a 4chan board with coins attached, and it's like can't like isn't that also like SocialFi? And it's like like on this scale that we had up in the very beginning of the episode, it's like yeah, probably they're very much on the right, and it's like very explicit capital, but there's still like something fun about it and something engaging. And it's
Yeah.
like it's not engaging on its own, like I don't know, something like computer games or like a single player computer games, like engaging because like it's the story or like it's the content in that. But like I think these like a lot of like what I would think is like what makes SocialFi special is like that there's like a certain interaction with other like players and people and the community and like all of this stuff. Every good meme coin has a Telegram and a Twitter that's absolutely popping, and people like I don't know if they're like as strongly like identifying themselves with the meme coin as it was like 2019 Dogecoin people, where it's like, oh, we're just here and like we're here to have a good time, we're happy and like whatever, and we're sponsoring like the Jamaican bobsled team and like a NASCAR or whatever thing. It's more like the Dennick's favorite word, financial nihilism, where it's like, yeah, I'm like part of this community for like 3 days, but afterwards I'm gonna dump on them. But it's still like I almost feel like there's like a type of person or like a persona which is like Memecoin Trader, where it's like they have like their very own like language and like social symbols, and like I like I'm in these Telegram chats and like I don't understand what's happening. Like I don't understand their jokes. I don't understand like, and I'm like very crypto Twitter native, and like I try to follow things, but like go into like the Geo Bowden like Telegram, and you're just like, what has happened here? Like who's like, wow, this is insane.
But that's like the overlapping user on, I think, most of these protocols we have analyzed. That's the usually the type of user that tends to be more core to those products. But yeah, it's an interesting niche where I don't think it's necessarily the Twitter that we have. Like our Twitter curation feed is not like necessarily showing this type of audience, but it does overlap a little. There's all the SocialFi apps that teams have been trying their hand at. Some interesting ones are, so there's Sofamon, which you, I believe, trade your way into Telegram stickers, into acquiring stickers as a somewhat social status. They've partnered with Friend.tech and a few others around crypto Twitter. Then there's another one which is called Worldpvp, which I think is kind of a fun one. It's kind of Memecoin trading where you have a map of the world. Every country has a market cap, which is based on how many people have, like how much people have put into it, and every 2 days the country with the largest market cap gets to throw a nuke on any country they choose, and until there's no, and they acquire that market cap, I believe, until the end when there's no country remaining, and you can come in and exit at any point. So it's been interesting. I think like if you go on the website, the map, anyone can put any, like the leader can put any picture for the country. So there's like, it's just chaos. If you look at the map, it's like flags of the other countries like spreading around, but there's also people like bribing or like saying random text, like in the US. I think if I look right now, make world PvP fun again. Step 1, buy Lesovo. 2, we nuke USA. Like stuff like this is, I don't know, it's like total chaos, and I like total chaos. I think it's a fun thing. Although they recently nuked France, so that's not as fun. But
Where is France? Here?
left.
Left. Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
see.
here.
I mean, it's kind of sad to see because like this is a social platform when there is no moderation, right? Because it's like all violence and terrorism and just violence.
Well, terrorism. I don't know about terrorism. I think.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, this looks absolutely hilarious. Like, I love this.
Yeah, this is. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This is amazing.
What?
How
like,
do you earn money on this?
You bet on the market cap of the country. I believe you trade the price of it based on how many people are holding it. But if you're the biggest one and you nuke someone else, you acquire that.
Dude, this is hilarious. I'm gonna make Lesotho great again. Like
at some point, like the three biggest countries were like US, China, and Chad. Chad, just
of
for
course.
The oh yeah, Chad. Oh yeah, look, I didn't see you. It's still there.
But like,
Oh.
but like Chad is still there. But isn't that like a Romanian flag or something? Or maybe their flag is that. Okay, never mind. I guess that's their flag.
I don't know the Chad's flag, but yeah. But yeah, I think this is ranked by market cap, right? So US is by far the biggest. China has been
Why Chad? Oh damn!
They've been nuked like France. That's why there's a hole on the map where China is supposed to be.
There's a hole in the map.
Wait, and like, does this run as long as like until there's only 2 teams left? I guess.
I think so. I think they tweet like the rate at which there's nukes to 2 days now. So every 2 days there's a new one that gets nuked.
My
but
God,
this is like
hilarious.
shitcoin trading, but taken to a fun level.
Yeah.
Yeah, this actually looks fun. I mean, it's very, very degenerate, but still seems fun.
It is, yeah. But that's what this is all about. Yeah, SocialTech is another, like, the goal is to financialize having access to someone and trying to asking him a question. So you can ask privately and publicly questions and put a bid tied to it. So it's very similar to Orb.land, which is a project that's been here for several months now, quite a bit. And the main differentiator is Orb.land has like 5 different, just 5 people that you can ask questions to, and they're very, very slowly listing people, and they only want to list people that are prominent in the space, usually more research and very close to dev people and influential, I guess, more than like degenerates. And you have a price, and this price decays over time. And once you have paid the price and acquired the orb, you can post a question to which he is obliged to answer. And well, I mean, I think the orb can't be traded until he answers, and by default, all answers are private, but you can decide as the orb owner to render all previous questions, all previous answers public. So yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I think like there was Nick Carter has an orb, for example, and he put some really thorough like thoughts that he eventually also posted on Twitter on there, and they tend to take the job pretty seriously, which I think requires it. Otherwise, to have this gain traction, like you have to have the guy who answers be really into it and actually go deep into the answers. No one's gonna pay like 2 ETH for something where they're gonna get a yes out of, like it's a like these are like thorough answers and usually pretty interesting insights. So yeah, this is like super deep.
Where are they storing these? I guess.
It's a good
Okay,
question.
so Ethereum.
Etherscan, yeah,
So Ethereum,
Ethereum.
yeah. And like, why is this keeper fund keep changing? And I guess it's dropping.
So you have to pay a harbinger tax. I think that's like a established like economic concept. I'm too stupid to explain right now, but basically like if you hold this asset, you are being taxed, and like I think the tax is like increasing the longer you hold the asset. So like there's an incentive to kind of like get rid of the orb again. And those funds are like you have to put down a deposit to actually like you have to buy the orb, and then you also have to have a deposit, and like the longer you hold the orb, the more you're gonna like your initial deposit is gonna go down.
And what about 0xP people?
Oh, I don't know. It gained somewhat some traction on Twitter lately, so I checked it out. There isn't much of a like data on 0x people and how it's doing. I'm very confused by the app. The way it works is when you are on the app, it's kind of like Twitter, except you can also follow others' wallets and see what they are buying. So by default, when you log in, and you follow like 3 people, you get like all their trades like as notifications. So there's like I was getting spammed at first and I didn't get it, and it's basically any transfer, even like Friend.tech buys and like stuff like this, like super niche. They have tied socials to their addresses, mostly by looking at Friend.tech and Fantasy wallet funders. So the wallets that funded those accounts. Now you can see, okay, since this wallet funded Hill Derby, therefore this wallet most likely belongs to Hill Derby, and therefore we can tag him as such, and all his trade under that address will be attributed to him. So this is kind of how it works in trying to aggregate all the things, but it feels like too many things at once. So I'm just kind of confused about like what I'm supposed to even do on this app.
Another thing that I think is also a kind of plays into SocialFi is Polymarket, where if we think about the scale from the beginning, it's very explicitly explicit capital and it's very like explicitly financial. But they have this leaderboard feature, and Polymarket is actually doing really, really well at the moment. So let's take a look at the numbers real quick. And Polymarket is mostly surfing on the wave of US elections. I think in an earlier episode, I already kind of covered Polymarket, and this was a prediction that was like very obvious to make. So in the month of May, they actually had 63 million of trading volume, which is like that's pretty significant. And they have 13,000 users. So very much up from, I don't know when we last looked at this, but probably like March or something, where it was like 2K, 800, 1,000, something like that. So now they are really, oh wait, this was this year. Last year in March, they had 1,000. This year in March, they had 3,000. But comparing that to 13,000, that's a huge number of people. And a lot of this success can basically, if you just go to the Polymarket Twitter, you can immediately see like their last retweet is a tweet from Eric Trump. Then it's also Ryan Selkos, who's also like really in the political arena, trying stuff at the moment. So they're really, really surfing on this election wave. I think it is very interesting. And then what I think is social about this, so if we just go to presidential election winner 2024, they kind of have a shitpost feed. I think they should maybe do a better job of kind of moderating this or showing something. But if you post on the tweet, it actually shows you what kind of assets this person is holding. So there's a person like A1144 says Trump,
Oh, that's
and you can
funny.
see that he has 21 Donald Trump tokens. And then there's an account called Obama 2024, which has 612,000 and a half Michelle Obama tokens. I think this is really cool. I think they've done a great job of kind of like building out these features, and this is also a team that I think is like really iterating on their shit. They're actually getting better. I think this is like one of the apps that could take crypto more mainstream. The Trump team is really bullish on this. Even Donald Trump himself like posts this on Truth Social quite a lot. Like he'll not post polls of like traditional media because like they're fake news, as we all know. But rather he just takes Polymarket odds and just posts them for himself. Where the Polymarket gods currently their chances of Trump winning the presidency is 56%. So of course Trump is very excited about this. How accurate these odds are, nobody knows. I mean, Michelle Obama has a 3% chance in these this thing. So we'll see how this turns out. But yeah, I think this is not discreetly SocialFi, but I think this is a cool thing of like what crypto can enable, like using all of the tools that we have, and like Polymarket team is like, I think they run on one smart contract, but like it's very abstracted away from you as well. Like you just deposit money, and it's not just like its own app. So yeah, I think this is like a really, really nice, like maybe not strictly SocialFi, but like a really good consumer crypto app. Which
I mean, at least this one prediction market is strictly SocialFi. People are just trading Donald Trump and Biden's cards as a hero, and basically,
yeah,
and I think,
yeah.
and I think like it's so nice that like I wish everyone on crypto Twitter now when they tweet, like especially the KOL when they tweet, they show a bag next to their name. It's like this much amount of eigenlayer bag. When I say this thing about eigenlayer, that would be nice.
Yeah. Eigenlayer advisor back. Like who has them? Who doesn't have them?
I was following it for the ETTF odds, and I think it was one of the better proxies for consensus. What is the current consensus on its approval rating? And yeah, so it's a really good way, even if you're not really a user first, like a viewer thing is also really really good. And I think it's, given that it's financial, sure, you can always like game it, but like it costs you money. So like people are gonna bet on what they probably believe more than anything, at least if they're putting their money at stake. And then there's, I think, outsized bet like Michelle Obama. It's probably like a decent play. You know, every once in a while you'll get a hit rate, and it just needs to hit every once in a really, really few, like really many times. So, you know,
you could have bought the ETTF like shares for 5 cents to the dollar, and you could have made it 20x just like with something as basic as that. I think that was like the lowest point was like 5 cents or something. But yeah, this also like I think this is very much network driven, where like the results of this will get more accurate the higher the liquidity and the more people kind of like actually make the markets, and then the more it's gonna get shared by people. Like, I mean, Trump sharing is like insane. Like, imagine how excited the Polymarket founder is every time Trump shares. Polymarket, very exciting. With that, we close out the episode towards SocialFi. I think what we've learned here is like SocialFi is like not really a like defined category. It's very hard to put borders around. People are kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Some of it kind of useful, some of it not so useful. I think my main critique or like my main takeaway is like these like crypto Twitter builds for crypto Twitter concepts are not very sustainable. Especially like the crypto Twitter crowd is like very value extracting. They're very much like, I'm just in it for the money, and like they might not even give you like good product feedback. Like all the product metrics that you have are like super noisy just because of airdrop farmers. And I've been on the other side of this, where like Doom was spent by airdrop farmers, and suddenly like all of our internal metrics are like, they're all out of whack. Like you can't, like you're basically flying on vibes and intuition, but like you don't have anything like actually substantial to kind of like guide you anymore. So that's really it's a really tough spot to be in actually. So like kudos to everyone who's trying to like build something new and like put new like cool experiences on chain. I think that's like the broadest term that I would want to use, because like there's also an argument like, should social media even be financial? But yeah, those are my learnings. I don't know, Dobby, Denning, any like summarizing words on this episode for you?
I actually have just one question. Like, I see people talk about consumer crypto. Would you say all these are what they're talking about, consumer crypto, SocialFi, or it's bigger than this?
I would almost say that like what we've talked about in this episode is like crypto Twitter, consumer crypto, where it's like you are really targeting this like sub niche of like whatever. And like I think Polymarket is like the only thing that we've talked about here, which is like really crypto. And then maybe Pump.fun, which had like a small mention. It's like it's not real, like I don't know, it's like so weird and so fringe that it's like almost, but it's like it's like almost like an entirely different set of people, but you can't really like try to sell your grandma on Pump.fun. Like she'd have a heart attack in like 10 seconds just reading through the threads there. So that would be my comment on that.
I think consumer crypto, much like SocialFi, is kind of a not really well defined term and very vague. But yeah, I think they fit in somewhat. But like you said, like it is still a niche for now, and it'll get interesting once it's expanded and we see products like Polymarket that get more like bigger, broader appeal than just crypto people.
All right. I think with that, do we have any chart crimes this week?
Yeah.
Do we want to start some beef today?
We do. Okay, so 2 years ago, I released a NFT wash trading filter, and I published it on Dune for all to see, both the algorithm, but also see the results. And it's gotten some traction. It's gotten copied by DeFi Llama, The Block, and several other places, because it was the reason, I guess, what it was popular is because at the time, most wash trading methodologies were about like manually tagging collections, which is very inefficient and not very scalable. And I looked into an approach that was more about looking to heuristics. So the core heuristics is the buyer and the seller of the same guy, obviously not really, intended to be like clearly not like organic trading activity. If there's an NFT that keeps circulating between multiple, like one or two wallets, it's also weird. And also, since they have more complex strategies than just back and forth, people can loop it around and stuff. If there's the same ERC721 that pops up more than like twice in a wallet, I've tagged it as wash trading because it seems inorganic. That's the core mechanics. There's also the funding wallet. If the buyer and the seller share the same funding wallet, so the first wallet that ever sent them ETH and essentially created those wallets, then they are also tagged as wash trading. Except, and that's the part that many are missing because it's more tedious to integrate, except some essentially blacklisted addresses that aren't going to count as wash trading. One of the big things that I've been working on for a while is central exchange addresses. And if you don't discount those, that means like if I got funded through Binance and you as well, like we might be labeled as wash trading, although it really isn't. And that's not really fair. There's this, there's also Tornado Cash addresses. I think I'm all for anonymity, and I think like everyone should be allowed to be funded in anonymous ways. And I don't think that like there's no reason for it to be labeled as wash trading. So my rant here is that this website, which specializes on NFT volumes, basically copied my method, which is still in beta, and they're only filtering for EVM chains. I think it's first not really fair to like filter for a subset of chains. It's just weird, and also they don't seem to have put so much thought into this. Like there was a back and forth on Twitter between someone who was praising the data and someone who wasn't, and it doesn't matter why, whatever. But they were pushing this, saying it's more aggressive than hill dobbies, so it's much better. And I think that's just like really, really dumb. Like if you think like not filtering central exchange addresses is important, I think like that's one of the most common funding methodologies on all of crypto and all crypto users. The likelihood of being funded by a central exchange is like pretty high, right, for most addresses. So that's going to, not removing those addresses is going to overfilter way more than it should. And when your core business is an NFT data platform, like wash trade, like filtering the data is like the number one step of all analysis, I think. And putting it in beta, like it's probably been a website that's been there for a while, still in beta, and it's still trash in terms of trade, like wash trading strategy, wash trading like filtering. I don't know. I think it's a bit underwhelming to have this used and like being put forward. I don't know. What do you guys think?
All right. Just to play the nice guy. That's why they put it in a beta. So
Yeah. I mean, if you go out of your way to look for the wash trading algorithm, you'll see it's in beta. Otherwise, you probably won't. But yeah.
Okay, that actually makes a big difference. Yeah, I see this quite a lot where people who are not native to crypto try to apply methodologies to crypto stuff, and then like they're just like lost in the sauce, like they miss the context, where like the path to like bad things is paved with good intention, or whatever that phrase is called. And like I think like we actually need like way more like statistical data science and stuff like that to like do these things right. I think like more traditional data science of like actually clustering and stuff like that, machine learning, those kinds of things like would be like the correct way to solve for this. And to be a specialized platform and engage in this level of like, let's just throw stuff around and like see what happens. That seems pretty whack. But I haven't looked at the algorithms myself here, but I think it's like, hopefully they just reach out and they're like, how can we make this better? Like, what do you think? And they actually engage in conversation and want to learn.
I didn't know about this until like it was mentioned that my data differed from it, and why like was the question. But my frustration is also like this one has 4 filters. I added a 5th one over a year ago. So either they made it and it's been in beta for over a year when it's just an NFT stats platform, which is weird, or they've added it since and done an even more sloppy job than I thought. So I don't know, just a little disappointing, I guess, to blindly copy without really understanding and thinking like filtering out things is not for no reason, and you got to understand like how crypto works. But yeah,
some intern is trying his best. Or like, hopefully it's not. I don't know. Let's just hope they do better in the future. We've actually started beef for the first time in the chart grab section. I'm excited about it. I think we should start more beef. And with that, you've listened to the Index podcast on social finance. As always, comments are appreciated. Share this podcast with your friends. Thank you and goodbye.
Crypto day wizards, come join us for the parade. From Bitcoin ETF to Solana Memecoin trade, uncovering public secrets in the blockchain shade. Bad chiller, cherry picking liar, we call them out and set chart crown on fire.